Hey, vegan cyclist. So today we're doing RaceCast on the Visalia Crit, the full race at the Michelob Ultra Cycling Sequoia Cycling Classic. I have Tony with me, Tony Wolf. He was in this race, and so yeah, we're gonna chat about this race and talk about how this thing kind of went down. Mostly, I think what we're gonna talk about is positioning and how you race. And what it's like to be racing with this many guys in such tight, situation, such close quarters, and Tony was probably moving through the field. Tony's really good at positioning, and so we're gonna get his thoughts on what he was doing and how well he was doing until the crash, because there's a crash late in this race that kind of messed everybody up. So we jump in here. This is coming on to the first lap, and these type of races, man, they start off super fast. Tony, can you tell us why they start off? Like, why do most pro crits just start off so hard and fast?
Man, that's kind of a good question. I've never really thought too much about why, but I guess maybe just a lot of the top riders kind of want to make sure they get up in towards the front early on and try to put other teams on the back foot a lot. I think where if you start to put your guys up the road in moves right from the start and try to kind of catch other people out to where they're having to chase you or whatever, and just make them chase you all race, and you can keep sending guys off one after the other, and like I said, kind of keep other guys, other teams and such on the back foot throughout the whole race, and kind of conserve all the while. Of course, you're attacking and you're spending energy, but relatively, you're spending energy in the right way rather than having to chase. You much rather prefer to spend your energy being up the road than chasing.
Well, also, really, unless you're in the top 15. You wouldn't be able to go with a move if it went. And so it's super strung out, right? And I'm a good 3 to 5 seconds off the front of the pack. And so I don't even know what's going on up there. And if a move started to formulate, one, I don't even know that it's happening. And then two, there's no way I'd be able to go with it. So I guess there would be that advantage of by the time a move was established and the pace started to slow down and I could start to move forward, it's done. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, and so when you have some of these big teams and the strong teams, they'll go to the front and potentially just drill it and then make that separation, get their preferred breakaway. But so when you first start off on a race like this, when you were because last year you had a pretty legitimate team. You had a designated sprinter. You had a lot of guys. This year's been a little bit different. But so when you have that team that's going to contend for the win, how do you start off in the front? How do you make sure that you're up, on the front end of this spear?
You basically just, you make sure that you get to the line relatively early. I've had even last year I had a couple races where I was thought I was getting to the line early enough, and I pulled around, doing warm up laps or whatever, came around the last turn. I'm like, oh shit, I should have been up there sooner. But basically you just want to make sure that you get there early enough so that you're kind of on the starting line. Not that you're a couple rows back, because if you're starting 2 rows back, it's you feel like you're close to the line, but you have the 2 rows in front of you that's 30 people in front of you. You're way too far back already. So you just want to be on the front, and then just right away you just start following moves and or initiating moves, depending on what your plan is and what your strategy is. But basically just following moves, and then if your move gets brought back, as soon as it comes back, just inserting yourself right back into the front, not having the thought that, I'm going to recover now and drop back, because once you drop back, man, in some of the bigger, faster races, you never get back to the front, or if you do, it takes way too long, and you spend way too much energy doing it, and by the time you actually get up there, the decisive move might already be gone. So you just have to be very active and assertive all the time.
Well, you can see when it's strung out like this that you can't really, to make up one position, you're almost like burning a match, right? To come up out into the wind, come around everyone, it just doesn't make any sense. Look how strung out that is. I mean, that's, dude, it just doesn't make any sense. And so it's hard sometimes to make up those positions, and if you're going to do it through the turns, you got to make a lot of risks. But everyone's taking right now the fastest line around the course. You know what I mean? And so to deviate from that line not only means now you're not taking the fast line, but then you're having to put out more power, more energy. Dude, that guy was always dipping in on me like that.
There were a couple of the Cliff guys that were doing that. But yeah, when it's like really strung out like this, I mean, you don't want to try to move up. That's just a bad idea. You just basically don't do it unless you absolutely have to for some reason. I mean, but basically you just wait for there to be a little lull, and then you just don't slow down when that happens. So like the instinct is that when there is a lull in the speed to like be like, oh, I have time to recover now. But in a race like this, when there's a lull like that, you just got to keep the power on for that extra couple of seconds, and that's when you can start to make up some spots.
Yeah, well, look at you. Yeah. Diving up the inside right there.
See, I like the technical turns, and I know that right, left, right there, you could kind of take that right-hand turn, you could really sweep around the outside and carry some speed, and I remembered that from last year, and so I was doing that sometimes, carrying a lot of speed, a lot more speed than everybody else around the outside. It's a little bit longer of a line, but I was able to carry some speed and then kind of dip inside into that left-hand turn. You have to be careful with that, obviously. You don't want to be too aggressive shooting up the inside.
But now, so there's I was thinking about this, there's sort of three sections of the group in a race like this. You've got the front spear, which is maybe 5 guys, and they're the ones driving the pace.
Yeah, 5 to 10.
Then you have the sort of the mushroom in the middle, which is the most of the guys that are battling because they don't all want to be on the front, right? But they want to be near the front. And then you have the tail end of the group, which is the guys who are not battling for the front. And I felt like in this race that it was so much easier, so much more efficient to be on the very tail end of the group, which usually is counterintuitive because you get the the kind of slingshot thing with the elastic band. But this race the pace was so high the whole time. There was very little of that. And so I felt like on the back, I could take my own lines and I could always take the fast line. I didn't have to worry about being on the outside here, bumping bars, being in between people. But then once you move into that middle section where you are fighting, you know what I mean? Like how much technical skill do you need to be able to be in the middle, like having a guy to the left and the right, and then you're taking this turn and then you're putting on power to come out. You know what I mean? What's it like in the heart of that?
It depends on your level of experience, I guess. Like for me, I mean, several years of racing bikes and before that racing motocross my whole life. The technical bar banging kind of stuff is generally what I'm pretty comfortable with that, and I'm pretty big too, so I have a little bit of an advantage as far as bar banging goes. So like I feel pretty comfortable with it, and again, just with my a lot of years of racing, whether it be bicycles or motorcycles, it just kind of feel like I have a pretty decent instinct on like kind of where to move, where to put myself.
I gotta say real quick that this Bahati dude, his number placement was horrible too. I've never seen anyone put a number there before. It's like on his leg. What are you doing, bro?
I've seen that a couple times, like on the hip. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that.
That's weird. That is weird. That's so, there you are. And the thing about you that's kind of a bummer is like, you're just the best draft, right? I mean, you're like a moped. And so guys will queue up behind you because, you know, you can just almost see the wake of the wind coming off you. And so what part of this course did you feel like you maybe could make up time? Or so for instance, in this corner right here, the inside, if you could dip on the inside, I almost felt like you didn't even have to pedal, like you were being blocked by the wind, and then you were taking less road. It flicked you onto the outside for this turn, which kind of sucks because then you're stuck on the inside of the next one. But for me, that if I was up on the inside there, I was always seeming to save some watts. So are you looking for that, like during this race? Like how long does it take you to sort of feel out a race course and go, okay, I know where to go now and where?
Yeah, it's definitely important throughout the whole race, I think, to be considering, you know, where your spots are that you feel like you can move up and make moves, you know, because that you just need to be always taking in that data, right? Like throughout the whole race, you're collecting data for the end to you know, understand the course, understand where you're strong or where you're confident that you can make moves and move forward for the finish. For me, in that left, yeah, I felt like you could really kind of sweep out from the right going into that first left hand turn. So not this turn, but the next one you could kind of be like in this guy's draft and kind of sweep out a little bit and then dip in. So then you'd be on his left and kind of be a little bit blocked. And for me, like I said, I felt pretty good taking the outsider on this turn. And then just carrying a little extra speed. And so instead of like stopping pedaling through the turn, just pedal a little harder on the outside, and then I could kind of just push people out of my way going into that next turn. I did that several times and would make 4 or 5 positions up with relatively little effort. Whereas like if you were trying to make up positions right here when we're going 30, 32 miles an hour on the straights, you know, it's much less efficient. So for me in those technical sections, that's where I really try to kind of assert myself.
Yeah, but you know that in the beginning of the race, it's strung out. But then in the middle, you'll have that opportunity to move forward. But it's that opportunity once you move forward and then holding that position, because the end of the race is going to be like this. And that's where you don't want to be in the back. In the last 5 laps, if you're in the very back when the race is at 30 miles an hour, I mean, whatever, dude, you're not going anywhere, right? There's no way you're going to be able to come back through all those guys. And what ended up happening in this race is I was all the way in the back, and so then you start getting the lead out team guys dropping off and then just causing all these splits in the field, which you're just like, okay, because then that's it. But there were a few times where it lulled, and then, like you said, you just don't take that moment of a break, and you swing around or use a little more power to come up around. But just what I wasn't very comfortable with, and I don't know why, was just not very, maybe after that wreck kind of spooked me.
So like real quick, right here you can see there's a lull. You can see everybody's like 3-4 wide. And that would have been a good opportunity to just kind of move over to the left, you know, and make you, and when it's wide like that too, if you have rows of people that you're passing basically. So when it's strung out, when you're passing people, it's like one person at a time. But when it's 4 wide, you can pass 4 people at a time. So if you pass 2 rows of people, you pass 8 people or 10 people. So you can pass people really quickly.
How about that's Hannah right there. I did an interview with her. She just finished racing the women's P12 and got second. So
after winning the day before.
Yeah, after winning the day before, she jumps into the men's and hangs out. Man, it's crazy.
Yeah, she's strong.
As you can see now, everyone after.
So watch me going around the outside here. It's kind of grouping up again. I kind of get blocked out a little bit, but yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, but
I passed like. I didn't really make up too much room that one, but maybe a couple spots.
Yeah, but I mean, you can see now that the group is swelling, so this would be more of the time to try to make that position or start fighting for those positions. But again, sometimes you just get stuck where, like, you swept around the left, and then everyone kind of closed you off when it flicked around the other way.
Yeah.
But there's a couple times on this section right here, I believe, that I kind of just came around everyone. Also going into turn 1, that was a really good spot too.
Yeah, if you went around out to the right when it would kind of bunch up a little bit.
Yeah, because everyone would bunch up coming into that first turn because you kind of have that elastic band effect really here. A lot of times with like Preams, guys would sprint for the Preams. Everyone would chase to get on them, but then they come into the turn super hot, slam on their brakes, and so if you're in the back, you know, you kind of almost run into a bunch of guys just standing still. Now, why am I not in the drops? Like, I don't know, understand. I rode almost the whole race on the hoods. It is that... Have you ever do that? Do you ever like prefer hoods versus drops?
Honestly, like this year I've been working a lot more. Honestly, like my training, what I do on the bike right now is not training. It's I go out and ride. I go do group rides, and that's basically all. Like a couple times a week. But I've been doing like a lot of flexibility training. I have a lot of mobility problems from past injuries. So I've been really, really working on my mobility, and I've gotten a lot more comfortable with riding in a more aero position for a more extended period of time. But like like last year, I would spend whole crits on my hoods because of my lack of mobility, and it would really like close off my hip flexors. So when you're in a more aero position, you're in a hip flexed position, which kind of shortens your hip flexors. And so when you contract a muscle concentrically, you're shortening the muscle. And so if your hip flexors are already shortened, like to a large extent, it's really hard to really produce any power from them. So I would spend a lot of time kind of sat up so I could still really use my hip flexors to produce power because, other issues with my kind of hip extensors, my glutes and stuff. So it's a little better now, so you can see I spent most of the race in the drops and was much more aero than I've been in years past, even though I'm still like a bus.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like I was sitting up. I mean, my arms are kind of, it's on the hoods, but in the aero position, right? So your arms are like 90 degrees, kind of.
Yeah.
And for me, you can see that I've got like a moto type finger hold, right? I've got like two fingers on the brakes at all times. And in the drops, it's sort of hard to do that because they're kind of further away. And it's just that like little micromanagement of scrubbing speed that, I don't know, that I kind of just more makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, being on the hoods can sometimes be a little more comfortable. And again, like, so, even my own issues aside or whatever, even if you're on the hoods with more of an elbow flexed position, your hips are a little more opened up than if you're in the drops. So you can still kind of, get a little more hip flexor action. So it can sometimes be beneficial. And especially if you're just sitting in the draft and you don't really need to worry too much about your aerodynamics, then being on the hoods is fine as far as speed goes. Some people argue you should always be in your drops in a crit to be protecting your drops. But in a P1-2 race, it's not really.
So, talk about target fixation. This is like a thing where, a kind of phenomenon where if you get scared and you look at a tree and you go, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, you just run right into the tree. And in crits, I don't know, I sometimes get wigged out about this where I start looking at the curb or like more railing around a 90-degree turn. I'm sort of almost, it's hard for me to, I have to like consciously say, don't look at where I don't want to go. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This turn, not so bad, but sometimes you drift way out into the curb. And so you start to like look at where you don't want to go, and that can get you in trouble sometimes because then you sort of drift off the line. Like coming into this, so the next turn, this one almost every time.
Yeah, I saw you a couple times like getting way close, like way close to the cones.
Yeah, because I didn't want to end up in that gutter, man. Like that curb, and then you got those trees. I just envisioned just the worst wreck ever, every time. And so I'm trying to not visualize that. But what do you do, or do you just have so much practice with motocross and that sort of thing to never fixate on anything other than...
Well, It's so funny that you like your first example was, if you fixate on a tree and you run into it. The first time I ever rode a bike without training wheels when I was, however old I was, 4 years old or something like that. My dad took me out and he told me, like, don't look at the trees, look where you want to go. And sure enough, biggest tree, I looked straight at it, and just like, not like I was going fast. Like, it probably took me like 10 seconds to get to it, but I just fixated on it and ran into it. Like this big ass tree, and just smacked my balls right into the handlebars. And my dad, of course, took pictures of me holding myself instead of, he was like, oh, that's hilarious. But yeah, so that's like my first experience with riding bikes, and it was like that like life lesson right away. My dad was like, I told you, don't look at the tree. And so now, I always 100% look where I want to go. And especially, man, when it's like so fast like this, it's like you don't really have a lot of time to look anywhere else. It's always like so fast and so precise that, I just look exactly where I want to go all the time, and just kind of ignore everything else. And so, sometimes there are some weird little obstacles or whatever, and so you have to be aware of it early on. But then, once you figure out what they are, you just figure out where you want to go, and that's where you look, always. And, I guess I have a lot of years of practice with it, but I was always, like, very aware of those cones on the inside on that left-hand turn, and that big curb on the right side, too. They were... Definitely that curb on the right was big, and when you came sweeping out of that turn really fast some laps, it seemed like you could get pushed into it. But, if anything, if someone's wheel was coming over towards me, I'd just be looking at their wheel. I'd be like, do I have to, like, crash into this guy? Or, like, because I'm not crashing into that curb.
Well, and so we're just about 20 minutes, probably a little bit over 20 minutes into this race, and there really hasn't been a single opportunity for me to participate in the race, right? To do anything proactive. Like, from the gun, I was on the back, and there's just no opportunities. I would have to burn a match so hard to get up to the front at this pace with it this strung out, right? So, this is, to me, the race was easy because I didn't really do any work. And it's one of those things where, man, if you were at the front and you're doing work, you're having to go so hard that you can, end up in the red. And then if you're in the red, just to stay on in the group is difficult. But I never really went into the red at all. I never really burned any matches. So it, but that's not saying the race was slow. It's just, I knew that, man, I'd have to burn a match just to even start to play. And so I was hoping that I could use, the slowdown or something like that to come around. But again, man, I get 20 minutes in, and I haven't even been in position at all. I don't even know what's going on up the road. There could be a break. I don't know. I can't even see the front, and so I'm kind of just leaning on, like, Chaz right there. I know that he has teammates. I know he wants to do well here. So if he's in the back and I can kind of see you, so I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking, man, if you guys are back here, I don't really have any huge incentive.
Well, watching me wasn't a good plan because I had no intention of going into any sort of move at all.
Yeah.
I remember at this point in the race, right about 20 minutes, I remember looking at the board and seeing 55 minutes to go. I was like, what? This race seems like it's been an hour.
Oh, man.
That first 20 minutes was really fast.
It was really fast. I remember looking up at the clock thinking I was going to see lap counters, and I saw 45 minutes. And I was like, wait, 45? We were in 45 minutes? Like, I just couldn't believe that we had 45 minutes left to race. And I was just like, oh, my goodness. But,
going back, like, so with my, kind of lack of training this season so far, my plan going into this race was very much to, generally you don't really want to start in the back half of a race, especially if it's going to be a fast race like this. You want to start towards the front, but I wasn't very confident that I was really going to be a contender, and so I was just like, I'll just start kind of in the back half and see how I feel, and then see if I can creep up as the race goes on. And so that's kind of very steadily, you can see me kind of choosing my times. I'm up there on the right, just maybe 10 people up, and just very carefully was choosing my moments throughout the race to just kind of very steadily creep forward. And that was my plan, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised with my legs actually performed much better than I expected.
So I don't know if you saw that guy had a flat. He put his arm up, and man, in a crit this fast, you go as soon as you stop pedaling, it's almost like you're at a dead stop, right? I mean, it's really scary when you have guys changing their pace like that, especially in a turn. So that was avoided a potential hazard there. Man, I don't remember. I guess I was just staring at the wheel in front of me because I don't remember how strung out it was.
Dude, it was yeah, for like the first 20 minutes, it was almost we've seen a couple of little lulls, but I mean, yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're
very strung out.
We're almost 30 minutes in now.
Yeah.
And
really for most of the race, really like the vast majority of the race was this strung out. There were just, maybe between 5 and 10 kind of slower moments where you could kind of pick your chance to move forward, but most of the race was very strung out.
The thing, though, is that, when you have these moves trying to go up the road, you have so many guys like me who I have not burned a single match. And so if the guys up the front are burning matches and then cycling to the back, by the time I get to the front, I'm pretty fresh. And so if I see a move go, I have the ability to go with it because I'm not being just wrenched on. So you can sort of see now that it's probably starting to slow down a little bit. The Stork guys, man, one guy was from Australia, another one had raced in Europe. I mean, they had some really, really strong guys. And Mike's Bikes had a really strong team. Williams had a really strong team. Specialized had a strong team. It was so many strong teams. But then you have just littered throughout this pretty stacked field, just all these individuals who, are still super strong, but they're the ones that I think kind of kept it together the whole way, right? Like so many people that wanted to race and wanted to make that move, which happens, right? I mean, that happens sometimes when it's almost like a move for sure is going to go. That's like the feeling throughout the group. So then everyone chases everything.
Whereas I was pretty confident a move was not going to go, which was another reason for me to just sit in and save energy, because we had Willie Myers, is he the current crit champion? Did he win?
I know he was a crit champion at one point. I'm not sure if he...
2 years in a row.
So,
I'm not sure.
Hold on one quick. So, I see Chaz. Look, everyone slowed down, and I was just on Chaz's wheel. So, I went from the very back to now on the front because I was just on Chaz's wheel. He made the move. I didn't really have to I didn't have to burn a match to do that. I just followed his wheel. And now he's chasing... It looks like he's chasing like 2 guys up the road. And, it's on him. He keeps looking back. And it's like, man, you're going to have teammates. Yeah, you have teammates. It's on you. I'm hoping that maybe he'll get me close enough to the move that then I could jump him.
Just attack him.
Which I think I do. Because he starts to slow down a little bit too much. I think it's on the next lap. I do jump up and go.
Oh.
Dang. So you can see that guy did exactly what I was kind of hoping. Came from the back. And that will happen, man. Guys will be trying to chase down the brake, but they can't get it close enough. So then you get these little leaks. One. All of a sudden, you've got a strong brake. But I know, and this really comes down to reading the race, is you got to look at who's in the move, right? And I think there was a Cliff Bar, that low guy went, and there was one other dude, but that was it. So there were so many other teams still willing to chase. And again, that Cliff Bar guy tried to do the same thing that the low guy did.
Chaz just sat on the front for a lap and then responded to that attack.
Yeah, he wasn't cooking when he was on the front, but I mean, still, he
must have a pretty good coach.
Yeah. So now there's a couple guys, and I think this is where I sort of feel like Chaz has to be burnt, right? I mean, and he pulls off, and now there's a couple guys. So I take off and try to go, try to make that move up there. That low guy didn't do very much. And so hoping that if I can, but then that Cliff Bar guy kind of just pulls off, and it's like, and so
the pack is probably
they're
either on you or very close.
But I was just hoping that.
Yeah, you can see everybody looks back and sees you coming. The pack must be right there. Yeah, there you go.
And so then Williams goes right here. That's Timmy, and I go with him because they're a strong team this year. And so I'm in the front, and so I'm able to go with that move, right? And so I'm pretty fresh. But after this, I kind of went, okay, I don't think a move's going to make it because of how we're 31 minutes into this race, and everyone has tried, right? And so now I'm kind of burning matches a little bit just being on the front, right? I'm like spending energy, and I don't have a team, so I don't need to be on the front. I feel like I'm a little too on the front, that if a move goes, it's going to come from behind me, and I'll have to just go out of my soul to like go with it.
Yeah, so the position you're in right now, you're only behind one person. So obviously you're not going to be able to see when that goes, you're not able to just follow it.
Yeah.
You have to then accelerate up to their speed from a much lower speed instead of just following their draft, which is a lot easier way to do it, you know. But going back to what I was saying before, like we have Willie Myers, who's a very fast sprinter in this race, one of the top sprinters in Northern California. And we have Leon Gledhill from Mike's Bikes. So Willie from Mark Pro H24 and Leon from Mike's Bikes, top two teams in Northern California. Both very strong sprinters. And each of them, I think each of them only had one teammate. I think it was Adam Switters on Mike's Bikes, and then Blake Anton for H24 to assist their sprinters. So without really having those teams like fully in force, I didn't think that a break was really likely to go. I was thinking that they were probably more likely to try to be marking moves just so nothing got away without them, but not really going all in because they have a lot of confidence in their sprinters. And so, I was pretty sure that was how it was going to play out, which really, man, something like got away like really late in the race, right? Like there was
a five man break went on the last lap or like two laps to go.
Yeah, so it was not really, it was like just kind of a separation, really.
Yeah, the thing again is at that speed, and when you have all the teams up on the front, the teammates will so if Mike's Bikes sees that their sprinter is in like a little 5-man group and he can just ease off the pace and create a little gap, and everyone's too tired to come around, you know what I mean? They can create that breakaway just by slowing down, not having the breakaway accelerate faster. Do you know what I'm saying?
And he doesn't the teammate who's on the front doesn't even, you don't stop pedaling. You just reduce your power by like 50 watts, something like that. Just so you're still keeping it fast enough that people aren't just going to jump right around you. And it just allows that little bit of separation to happen. And when it's already, when we're already going 30, 32 miles an hour and everybody's gassed at the end of a 75-minute race, it can make all the difference.
And now it's picking back up again. And, again, I feel like this type of pace fits my motor really well, which is just at like say threshold, right? I mean, I'm still having to throw out some spiked powers, but I'm never really having to go fully in the red just to stay on.
Gapped a bit there.
Well, so I get gapped a couple times, a little bit, but I kept thinking about what that Stork dude told me which was to not
Don't
burn
panic.
a match just to get on. And I think typically would have just wrecked myself to close that. But the amount of watts I was doing, I'm like, I know I can hold this for an entire lap if I need to. You know what I mean? So to just try not to, I'm using energy, but I'm not.
Yeah, instead of spiking your heart rate by hitting 1100 watts for the 30th time,
Which for me is my biggest downfall. It's my biggest weakness, to spike and then sustained effort. Also, the other thing is that this camera, the positioning of the camera, really sets everyone pretty far away from me. But my front wheel, because you can't, the way it is, like, a lot of my bars are out there, so it kind of makes this weird thing. But yeah, I got to protect my front wheel, but a lot of times my front wheel's right on these guys. It's just to the left or just to the right, so maybe it looks like I'm kind of off.
Yeah,
it sure doesn't. It sure doesn't feel like it. You know what I mean? It sure feels like I'm right up someone's ass. But I don't know. I think I race too cautiously sometimes. I race too family man of like, I gotta go to work and be a family. And so I just don't take the risks. And this is one of those races where, man, you have to take risks. You have to be okay with crashing if you wanted to win this race. Whoever won this race had some hairy moments.
Yeah.
For sure. And I just wasn't willing to put myself in that situation. But when you do get in that situation, when you are up there banging bars, and I mean, what is it like? What is it like to try to hold not only a fast pace, but then have to hold your line with guys who, any sort of gap you create, they're going to fill that in, and you're just going to get pushed back.
Yeah, I mean, it can be nerve-wracking, Yeah, I mean, there's definitely different kind of levels of, how aggressive do you want to get to maintain your position. And as the laps continue to tick down, it becomes more and more important. Like, you have to be willing to check some people with your elbow. And I've done it, many times where it's like somebody's trying to come in, you have people on both sides trying to move into your spot. And so it's like, sometimes it's tough. It's like you can't elbow both guys out of your way. And so you have to be kind of like watching the preferred line. And then when guys are trying to get in there on it, you just got to kind of, duck your shoulder in, or kind of give them a little tap of the elbow, or whatever it takes, and that can definitely be nerve-wracking, and especially depending on how much experience you have with like banging bars with people like that, and how confident you are with your bike handling skills.
But I think even no matter how confident you are, let's say Willie, very confident, and he wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So he's taking these risks, and yeah, I'm sure that he mitigates every risk he can. But there's just sometimes where you go into a turn and go, fuck, what's gonna happen? And dude, one little twitch of someone, which ended up happening in this race. I'll try to get the better footage of it, because I think Chaz was pretty close to it. He had a GoPro, and Alex was pretty close to it. He also had a GoPro. But yeah, man, just touch of wheels while you're leaned over. And man, the weirdest thing is, if you've never banged bars with someone, so if you want to know the feeling, go out, start riding, put your hand on like your bar end on your drop and push it forward. And it's the weirdest feeling. You'll feel something in your bike that you've probably never felt before, which is this weird counter steering movement. And it's totally, when you bang bars, it's like the opposite of what you would expect to happen, right? Mm-hmm. When you hit someone's bar, you would expect to bounce off them, but you don't. It's like it pushes your wheels out, which then pushes you in, and it's almost like this magnet of the bars being stuck together, and it's really crazy. And so you kind of have to like nudge yourself off them, but if you're in a turn, dude, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you kind of use you just stick your elbow there, and then you kind of turn, micro turn your front wheel kind of away from them, So yeah, you kind of like nudge them off of you in a way.
But it's a weird thing when
it's like a counter steer and a nudge at the same time. It's definitely when you don't know what it feels like when it first happens, it definitely will catch you off guard.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if you take, because I've tried this, if you're on the bike, take your left hand off and like cup your bar end on the drop and push it forward, and you'll feel this like really weird reaction to your bike, and that's kind of what happens. But so, you know, it is what it is. One thing that I think, and maybe you shine some light on this, is a lot of wives wouldn't want their husbands out here racing crits. A lot of older guys say, I would never race a crit. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. A lot of this looks very dangerous. And there is a lot of opportunity for danger. But I mean, dude, I've seen some of the worst wrecks on just the casual group rides. I've seen tragedy on just the regular group rides. You know, crit racing, for what it is, for me, has been safer than the regular road. I don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, like, I guess, like, safety is kind of relative, right? In a way, like, or perceived safety. So, to me, man, like, racing motocross my whole life, racing bicycles it's like super safe. It's like playing chess. You know, I've broken 15 bones over the years, including my back a couple times, and you know, dislocated my shoulder, wrist, like many concussions. You know, I've jacked myself up racing motocross, and cycling, I've just had some road rash. You know, I've had a few crashes, some really good road rash, but and I mean, I have seen some dudes, you know, racing bikes, you know, break collarbones, and even worse, you know, I've seen a couple crashes that were guys got pretty jacked up, but it's pretty rare, you know, whereas in motocross, it's kind of like, man, it's not if it happens, is when. You know, if you race for long enough, you're going to get jacked up. In, you know, crit racing, it's, yeah, so that's kind of my perspective on it. But yeah, you're right, like, you know, you see people out, like just the weekend warriors out riding, and they get, you know, you never know, like you might be on a descent and hit some gravel that you didn't know was there, and even though you're trying to be cautious, you know, things happen, and like we, you know, what we saw at Climb to Kaiser a few years back was, like you said, tragic, and that guy was, again, just kind of a weekend warrior cyclist. So
well, and then you're also dealing with cars. There's no cars here.
Yeah,
and so you know, I don't know, it's something that again, I think my perspective on it's a little bit different, because I often I'm not willing to put myself in that risky position, and so it might be my perspective on it being safe might change if I was going full gas at the front, dipping turns. But for me here, man, it felt safe to me. There was a couple times where I got a little scary, like that Cliff Bar guy came up the inside, and man, I just have a wild imagination, so I'm just thinking, oh, he's gonna low slide, take everyone out, you know.
Which
always
happens sometimes.
Yeah, but I'm always kind of have this like plan of what where I'm gonna go, right? I have an exit plan out of any sort of turn. So you have one teammate up there, Sean Bagley, past state champion, Masters racer, excellent racer, super knowledgeable. What were you guys working anything? Was he just in the race to support you? Like what was that team dynamic like?
We were just both in the race. So really, like, I mean, yeah, we're teammates, but he's on the Masters component of Cortex, and I'm on, you know, the almost non-existent elite team. And so in you know, my, again, going into it, I was just like, I was not at all confident in my ability to really be there and mix it up. And Sean is, you know, perennial strongman, always a good crit racer. So I certainly wouldn't have expected him to try to do, you know, throw his race away for me, and I didn't really expect to have anything to deliver to him. So I mean, we're basically just both in the race, and yeah, I mean, that's pretty much that. And he ended up doing really well. He was fortunate enough to be just ahead of the crash, and I was just behind it, and so he got 13th, which was in the money. which was cool.
In the money. So we're 45 minutes in. There's like been one slowdown. I think we averaged almost 27 miles an hour for how much turning and how much not pedaling there was. Right, a lot of like these turns, guys are letting off the pedals, or at least letting off a lot of the power. That was pretty fast. You know, there was a point, and you'll see where there was a pretty big split that happened. And these big teams, they'll end their race. They'll end their race completely if their teammate is up the road in any sort of move, because they'll stop everyone else from being a factor.
With the caveat that they're confident their teammate can win. So the good teams like Mark Pro and Mike's Bikes, and this is much more like advanced kind of tactics. But if a breakaway goes up the road, and you know you have, say, Mike's Bikes sprinter Leon is in the break, and then you know one of Mark Pro's guys is in there who isn't a sprinter, that might not be such a good bet for them, and they might want to chase that down instead of letting that go. So if they have somebody in there who they're really concerned about, and the guy that they have in there, even though of course they're all strong guys, but they're not really very confident that their guy can win, their team might work to chase it back and allow everything to be reset.
Yeah, for sure. And you could see that in that Alabama crit that I posted on my Facebook, where UHC brought back their own guy. But I more am talking about a split in the field where it's like 40 guys total and you go 20. Like right here, this is where it happens, right? Yeah. None of those guys, I was looking at who, because there's a lot of guys up the road. Look how many guys are up the road.
Yeah.
That's what, 10? And so, man, there's now enough guys up the road represented that any of their teammates in the back are going to do zero work. You're 50 minutes into the race, so now you might have a lot of guys that are cooked, and this is the move. I had to go with this. I had to at least chase this down, because if I just put all my chips in the group, man, like you could see last year with this race, guys may just end up giving up. I was super pumped when I saw Chaz did not make the move, or maybe that's his teammate.
I think that's his teammate. Yeah, White Sox. Chaz had.
Yeah, and so there was a couple like him, but then I was thinking like, well, man, maybe one of the specialized guys is up the road. But this was like a really hairy spot right here, because there was like me and this dude were the only ones willing to work, and and I think that the break up there like was almost a split. It's too big, right? And that happens when a group has like 10, 12, 15 guys. You get guys that are just like, well, look, there's way more people to do work here. So, like, look how many, at least 10, probably now like 11. And then that Cliff Bar guy made that. But you can kind of start to see where they're not single file. They're not working that hard together.
Yeah, if you get a couple of guys who think like, oh, this is a big group, I'm just going to sit in on it, then you get the whole group. It's like you get one or two guys who are like, no, I'm not going to work. Then the whole group, like, what, am I going to pull you around for the next 20 minutes so that you can out sprint me?
And that's that's the thing about a breakaway is you have to break the elastic. And, you know, you look back and you have a gap. You just have to go out of your skull to, like, separate that, because I could see them. I was close enough to them. I'm willing to work if I think I'm going to bring it back. But if I come around the turn and I don't even see them, out of sight, out of mind, dude. I'm not doing anything, right? So if they had just pinned it, they may have made something work. But either way, so that was really my only time where I did pretty much any work.
And I think there's another one coming up, like where there's another split happens, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't happened yet. And I ended up actually putting my face into the wind. And I was like, man, I had planned on not doing this, but it was like probably 10, 15 guys up the road, and everybody in the group was in the peloton was sitting up, and so I put myself out there and chased it down. That was the only thing that I did all race, but it was this moment where I was like, man, if I don't do this, it's gonna go away quick.
Well, you can see how fast I'm falling back through the group, which is not good. I had good positioning, and then so it's weird, right? It's you can either A, hold your position and suffer, or you can give up your position for recovery. And so it's kind of one of those things, like what is more important to you? And I don't know. I wish that I had just sucked it up.
Yeah, it's going back exactly what I was saying, half an hour ago or whatever, where, yeah, you need to, once you get yourself up to the front, if you want to finish in the front, you just got to, like, when you go off the front and you get brought back, instead of just letting up and thinking, like, okay, I'm just going to drop back and recover, giving it a little, few seconds extra effort to slot yourself back in the top 15 or 20 people, can save you a lot of energy later on. So you don't have to move up through this now 40 people that are ahead of you.
Right. You can see a couple guys off the road. I think Stork started sending some of their guys. It's one of those things though that it's a little bit hard to get off the front in a crit with this many turns and stay there if you have a small group, because if you're solo or just one other guy, you sort of every turn you kind of like lose a little bit of speed, and so it's hard. It's like you don't have any momentum to like carry you around these turns. As for everyone else, I'm a lot of times I'm not even pedaling. I'm just on the back coasting through a turn where the guy up the road is going to be full gas. So then you have guys that just have a lot of matches to be able to bring it back. Also, this race had a lot of money up for grabs. So, if you're incentivized by the almighty cash dollar, dude.
Lots of pre-money, too. There was a lot of pre-money in this race.
So do you go for Preams? I hear the bell, and I go, man, that'd be sick to get some cash. And then I go, I'm just going to sit down. Just going to relax.
I mean, certainly not this race. This race, I didn't even think about them. I kind of listened. I heard the bell a couple times, but I was just not even thinking about it. But I've had races where it kind of was, my goal was more to be, marking moves and trying to pick up some preems if I could, while, my sprinter was sitting in and going to take the opportunity to sprint.
If you don't know, a preem is basically mid-race. They ring a bell, and it says the next person to come across the finish line gets a prize. That may be $100. That may be a donut. You know what I mean? Whatever the sponsors have been able to accumulate. Cookie Preams, beer Preams, wine Preams, cash Preams. And so if you're up in the front, you might be able to sprint it out. And the reason they do that is to try to stimulate the race, especially long crits, 75-minute crits, 90-minute crits, can get a little boring for the fans. And so for the people that come out and watch it, yeah, they want people sprinting every lap. What race is it where it's dash for cash?
Yeah.
And it's a crit, and every single lap there's like what, $10 on the line?
Yeah, I think it's $10 a lap. Yeah,
$10 a lap. So if you got a breakaway, you know what I mean, or if you went off solo, dude. And so I've never done that race. Is it just hog wild the whole time?
Dude, man, I did it. I've only done it once, and I did the 2 3s and the 1 2s, and then the 2 3s I got into a break very early on. It was a 4-man break, and so we basically just split the pre-money. We all took turns with it because our goal is to just stay away, right? So we all kind of shared turns pulling through, and so the 4 of us took all the pre-money for almost the whole race. And then the P1-2 race, so Nick was my sprinter at the time, and basically our plan was to try to kind of deliver him to a podium result, or the best result possible. And I raced for Preams, and dude, I missed out on so many by like a wheel, just got second on so many of them, and it was such a painful race. That was miserable. The 2-3 race was much easier because just being in the break, we just all took turns. But yeah, that 1-2 was it was brutal, man. Just sprinting lap after lap.
Well, what happens sometimes in a preem is guys will sprint for it. As soon as they get there, they slow up. I think you could see you chasing something down right there, because that looked like a gap, and then I saw blue. Yeah. You'll get guys sprinting for the preem. As soon as they're done, they sit up, and then they get countered because they're waxed, and then they get countered by guys. And a lot of times, breaks will go after a preem.
Yeah, it's a good tactical move for sure to counter a preem lap.
I've had, I think I've won a couple preems, but nothing neat. I know I've tried, but I'm just not. Dude, what's such a bummer is when you go for it, then get out sprinted at the end. You've burnt a match hard, to get there, and then you don't even have anything to show for it.
It's such like a risk reward thing, where it's like, man, am I strong enough that the risk is worth it?
Well, then especially for me, it's like I'll go out there, risk it, and then they're like, here's a gallon of milk. And I'm like, dang it. No. So frustrated.
Yeah, you definitely have to listen to what the preem is, right? Like, don't sprint on the laps that it's like, oh, it's a $3 gift certificate for a shop that you've never been to because it's 7 hours away from your house.
I remember one time they did a preem, and it was a discount. It was like 15% off the local ice cream shop. And he was like, well, that's not a preem, dude. That's not a prize. It's like whoever sprinted for that and didn't know it was probably so bummed. Like, it's nothing free. You have to pay.
Yeah, you still have to pay more.
You just get a discount. So, now, what's your thoughts on the crits that, like, left and right, more of like a GP style course versus some of the more like car park type places where it's all left or all right? Do you like the switchbacks, like flicking right?
I 100% prefer, like, more technical the better. Like the Watsonville crit, is my favorite crit. It has some sharp turns. Like it has a 120-degree turn with a dip halfway through it, like a drainage dip. Yeah. And dude, I love that course. It's so I just find the right apex to that turn, and I'm able to like manual through that dip and carry all this speed out of it where I'm coasting while everybody is standing up sprinting, and just maintain or save so much energy with it. And so the more technical the better for me, man. I love it.
I cannot believe how strung out this entire race was. I mean, I guess I was not, my eyes were not up the road. I was just staring at the, one or two dudes in front of me. But like, this was a fast race.
Yeah, it was weird that it didn't feel more brutal. Like, it was very fast.
But isn't that why it didn't feel more brutal? Is because you operated between 25 and 28 miles an hour versus operating between 20 and 29?
I don't know though, man. Think about Lodi. Like, think about Lodi, that race every year is pinned the whole time. It doesn't really slow down. Yeah. It doesn't mushroom up even as much as this race. It's just completely strung out the entire race. But it's so fast that it, even sitting in feels like just horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, Lodi did feel pretty hard.
Every year that race, man, that's right about the time that everybody starts to get into like that fitness, like for nationals and all the big races, the big races on the calendar. It's just so fast, and there's a lot of money on the line too.
Tell me what's your thoughts on reading a race. I want to do a whole video on how to read a race, but when you get into a crit like this, what's your read race checklist? Like, who's here? How fit are they? What's the course like? Who's up the road? Who's in the pack? What is your checklist for reading how the race is going to play out?
You pretty much just named it. For sure the first thing is understanding who's there. What teams and what individuals from each team. So you have Mike's Bikes and Mark Pro, which are the two strongest teams. They're really gonna dictate a race. But, do they have their sprinters? And is this course more suited for a breakaways, or is it more suited for the pack to stay together and for it to be a pack sprint? And so, those are the most important things to consider. Like, is today gonna go to a break, or do the teams want it to be a sprint? And over the past couple of years, it seems largely like those big teams, they have such good sprinters, man, that they're so confident in their sprinters that they, it's like being in a race with United Healthcare. They historically have always had such strong sprinters that they just, like, any race that they're in almost always comes to a sprint because they just drill the brake back. And so you'll see a lot of races where, Mike's or Mark Pro have guys in the break, and then at the end of the race they chase back the break like we were talking about earlier, and their sprinter wins. So understanding which races are suited for a sprint or a break, and then what teams and what individuals are in the race, and then next is just...
So real quick right here, Chaz started going up the left side. I missed his wheel, but I'm always looking for that free ride up the group, right? And I hesitated a little bit and didn't get on his wheel, but he burned the match to get around everyone. And if I can be on your wheel while you do that, sweet. And so I'm kind of looking for that. But I missed it, and then we were coming into that turn, and so I kind of just slotted back in. But
yeah, that curb kind of comes out and could nip you if you weren't careful.
Timmy, who is I think in front of me, he was saying that he got into like a little breakaway with one of the Mike Spikes guy or the Stork guy, and the Stork guy dipped in, like was running the hard left of that road, and then right at the last minute jetted out. And Timmy actually said he bunny hopped it and like clipped his wheel, and I think he got a flat tire from it. But so talk about when guys do that, when they like start all the way across the road, they're in the gutter, and trying to at least, I guess, create space from the group. Like, why do you see some guys dart across the road?
Well, sometimes like the first thing that comes to mind is if they're, so you said they were in a break, so a lot of time if you're in a break with somebody and like they're not wanting to pull through or something like that, you will very suddenly like kind of try to peel off to make, so you can like really suddenly kind of jerk yourself over and then kind of just apply just a tiny bit of brakes and kind of stop pedaling so they have to go past you, and then you get on their wheel, and either they work or they don't, and then the brake goes back to the group and it resets. Other than that, I don't really know why they would make a weird move like that. Maybe he thought he was getting too close to the curb and panicked, and that could be a thing too.
Well, your teammate Randy Couture, he did that to me in Dinuba, and he went to go and he drove all the way to the right curb, and he's pinning it. And so I'm like on his wheel, staring at his wheel, and then at the last minute he jumps out and there's a car. Dude, I like missed the car, like Final Destination style, right? Like he just jetted out and he could see it because he was on the front, but I just wasn't looking up the road. Dude, I almost ran into that car so hard, and I was so pissed, and I yelled at him about it. He was just like, watch where you're going. So, all right, so I had 26.4 average for this race. The thing was that I think I kept it on for a lap and a half as we slowed down.
I thought it was above 27.
I
don't know for sure. I don't remember.
Let's see. Let's see what yours says.
My Garmin jacked up and turned off for a little while.
Weak.
And I had to turn it back on.
All right, so let's see what Sean Bagley, who finished 13th, his says. What the heck?
So how far into the race are we right now? Like, what's this?
An hour and 4 minutes. So we're close.
Yeah, so we're almost 10 minutes, and so you can see now I'm like sitting right up, staying right for sure in the top 15, 20 people, and ahead of that bunch, kind of more up towards the front spear, because I know, way up on the right up there, you can see I'm really working, like we were talking about earlier, kind of trying to be aggressive to make sure that I can stay up there, because I know that at any time the race might really get fast and just be strung out all the way to the finish. And I don't want to be 30 riders back when that happens.
So Sean Bagley, who was in the same race, he had 27.3.
Yeah.
So it was 27 miles an hour average. I think this is where the wreck happens. But so I had a max heart rate of 200 beats. My average power is 238 watts, which isn't very much. Nope, no wreck there. Which isn't very much, but again, I didn't do a lot. And my thing also, I recorded a lap and a half of just nothing. So probably somewhere in the range of, 245, 250 watts.
Just sitting in.
Yeah,
that's pretty good wattage for
right.
Almost never putting your face in the wind.
Right.
Right now I'm sitting, maybe 8th wheel or something like that.
Yeah.
So at this point, I know it's most likely going to come to a sprint. Willie is Willie or Leon. They're the favorites. And so I found Willie's wheel, and 100% my plan was to follow him all the way to the finish and, to the best of my ability. Hoping, I was pretty confident he would get a podium, and, I could at least maybe get in the top 5 would be amazing.
Well, this race really suited you because it didn't go to a break, and you're a great bike handler, and you're a great sprinter. So with you doing almost zero work and then moving up, there it is.
So
now
you can see I'm just ahead of you now.
Uh-huh.
I fully got sideways. So what happened, again, I was right on Willie's wheel, so now I'm just ahead of you. Yeah. Whereas just at the beginning of that lap, I was like 30 places up, right? Like way up there. I was following Willie, and I don't know what happened. Somebody else clipped someone else's wheel, and they fell over into Willie, and I was like kind of in between them. So he fell across just in front of my wheel into Willie, and my bike fully came sideways. I came unclipped to save it. Couldn't believe I didn't go down, but now I'm so far from the front, and now it's 3 laps to go.
Right.
And I had to chase back on, so right now I'm trying to recover my heart rate a little bit.
Well, I always feel bad because the etiquette when there's a crash is to just sprint as hard as you can. Like if you hear carbon bikes smashing into the ground and people screaming, attack. Maybe
I can create a separation of 10.
I know, it's so funny, man, how it's like no one even looks back. But it's just one of those things. The first wreck you probably are close to, you'll be all Mr. Nice Guy and be like, oh, what's going on? Everyone okay? And then next thing you know, the group's gone.
Everybody's attacking you.
Yeah. And so, but it's one of those things. Anytime there's a element put into a race that could cause any sort of separation or interference, racers are going to use that for their ability. So that could be road conditions, right? If the gutter is really smooth, guys might run into the gutter and single file everyone out. Guys might take really hairy lines to make positions. Other guys might not follow. Guys wrecking. Wind, obviously. But, whatever. It doesn't matter. The good cyclists are, programmed to look for any opportunity to,
at least make other people hurt.
Yeah.
Even if they don't actually create a separation, make people hurt to get back up to you.
Well, it's that, matching watt for watt. And I've talked a lot about that. Is, some of the best racers, they never let you... They're never doing watts and you doing much less. Yeah. Whatever they can do, they're going to make it to where you have to do the same amount of work they're doing, which is
or more.
Yeah, or more, which is the really difficult thing in cycling, right? Because obviously, if you're on someone's wheel, for the most part, you get about a 30% savings, and that's huge. So if you're sitting on someone's wheel and they're going threshold, they're going to have to be 30% stronger than you just to beat you, right? For the most part. And so the best racers, man, they manipulate that system a lot.
So you can see now, like I'm like all over the course, like back and forth, like left, right, like trying so hard to find some opportunity to move forward. It's pretty fast now. We're kind of in the like that center, like mushroomed up part of the group, and when we're going into turns, it's really hard to because they kind of group up and like drop to the fast line, and I mean I'm trying really hard to find a way to work my way back up without completely just blowing my wad, right?
Yeah.
And, but it was tough.
Now, I don't really remember what I was thinking right here. I think I was just sort of in autopilot. I don't know about you, but in a long race like this, 75-minute crit, where it's been pinned the whole time, not necessarily that I'm super fatigued, but my mind is just not very sharp. Thinking about all the turns and everyone around me and the tactics, just the like cerebral output, it gets you exhausted, right? It's another level of fatigue that is more mental. And so I think at this point I'm sort of just kind of brain dead.
Yeah, they seem maybe a little just reserved to the fact that you're just it's going to be a sprint, and that's not really your thing, so it's just like, okay, let's just ride the wave in.
Well, it was hard to tell when that crash happened because
so now you see the gap. There's a gap up ahead now, that group
of
5 riders or whatever it was. So is this the last lap?
It's probably getting there.
I think it is.
And so when that wreck happened, I was coming into him and my wheel kept locking up. So I tapped the brakes and it would skid and skid and skid. And I kept like fishtailing.
Yeah.
And I barely missed that dude sitting there. I mean, like my pedal probably came within inches of him. And I almost just railed right into him. And so I kind of was like, yeah, this is the last lap.
Just blowing apart.
No, this is the last lap because guys are falling off the back.
Yeah.
And so I'm on Chaz's wheel. I was thinking about coming around him at the end. This is the last lap, and obviously I'm super far back, so I have no show of the finish. And I was thinking, like, how funny would that be if I sprinted around him for 31st?
Should have bike thrown.
I was thinking about it because it's like, obviously, whatever, dude. Right? It's not when you're coming in like that. You could I could possibly win 31st place. Okay. Stupid. Or I could possibly wreck someone or crash or have a huge issue because I'm trying to sprint for something that doesn't really make any sense.
So the payout in this race went up to 20th place. Pretty substantial payout, and so I mean I got really close to getting back up into that, and so despite the fact that we're racing for minor placing at that point, I was really going for it and trying to after that crash, get myself back up there and taking risks that otherwise, you might not want to take. But
I mean, top 20 is different, and especially at this race.
Yeah, versus 30. Obviously, just to
And I mean, I wasn't, if I had been fighting for the front, I guess now that I look back on it, there were some really good opportunities in that last like 3 laps to move up with very little energy.
Well, what the problem was that like. It was tough to guess where the spot was going to be good to move up. So like it would like you saw in those last few laps, like there were a few times where it kind of mushroomed up and like there was an opportunity, and I would like shoot up the left, like yes, this is my chance to get back up to that top 10 position, and then it would like close down right in front of me, like going into this turn, like they'd all drop into that curb and I'd have nowhere to go, and like gain 2 positions instead of 15, and so. It was, even though there were the kind of those opportunities in the last couple of laps, it was really hard to determine which line was the right one to take when it did swell up like that.
So what is your post-race routine here? Right? I mean, do you ride for a little bit? Do you, like after 75 minutes, full gas, what's going on?
Spin around for, I mean, ideally you would spin around for 5 to 10 minutes, just kind of allow the metabolism of the accumulated lactic acid from the end of that race, and then after that just get some good nutrition in you and rest, and that's kind of what we did, right? We spun around a little bit, took our recovery lap, spun around, and then we went and got some delicious PF Chang's.
My max speed was 39.8, almost 40 miles an hour.
Without ever even sprinting.
Yeah, without even ever sprinting. That's pretty...
Yeah.
That's pretty gnarly. That's crazy.
That
You know, so
you can see we probably took like a 3-minute cool down, and then instead of continuing a proper cool down, decided to go talk to our ladies who were on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I had my family over there. My wife trying to use the camera. She is the worst. And so my son, this is so embarrassing because he's like, "How'd you do?" And it's like, you know, did you win? And I was like, well, no.
Won a good workout.
No, I didn't. I didn't win. I wish that I could win for my boy. That would be super sick. But you know, there's something about cycling, man, it's so Hollywood to think, well, if I just have motivation, if I just really want it, I can get it. It's not how it is, man. No, not at all. I mean, it doesn't matter how much you want a bike race. It comes down to fitness and science and tactics. There's just so many variables.
And luck, man. I mean, I really wanted it last year, and I got second so many times last year. No wins. So close to winning several times, and it's hard, man. It's a hard sport.
What am I doing, dude?
And then there's some guys that just, man, they just win so much, and it's impressive. The guys who do, you know, who have that fitness and have the tactics figured out, you know, it's an impressive kind of skill set to have.
Right on, man. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Good racing with you in there, and that's always a good race. So looking forward to the next ones. Do you think you're going to race again before you move to Penn State?
Yeah, that race actually I was pleasantly surprised with how I rode, and so it kind of stoked a little fire in me to do a few more races. So probably try to do a couple before June when I move.
If you want more about training and that sort of thing, check out Tony at ATP Coaching on Instagram at ATP Coaching. Check him out, man. He's got a pretty solid portfolio of athletes. I'm one of those athletes. I wouldn't say I'm his top star, but dude, Chaz, our other buddy, man, that guy's like on track to having 6 watts per kilo this year, and he's just... The dude puts out my same power numbers. Legit across the board has my same power numbers and weighs like 25 pounds lighter than I do. So, you know, Tony puts you on a good program, and if you follow it, you get results. So there it is. Guys, thank you so much. You can check out the vlog of this day at the end of this. And as always, vegan cyclist.
You.